Here's a fact that will reframe everything you know about African history. The first major African history audio documentary didn't come from Africa, it came from the BBC. In 2005, the BBC World Service launched Witness History, a podcast featuring daily 10-minute audio documentaries on pivotal moments in global and African history. This is the story of how audio documentaries became a crucial tool for preserving African history. Let's dive in. At the heart of this story is Witness History, a groundbreaking program that brought African history to the world. But it wasn't just about telling stories, it was about preserving them. One of the earliest episodes featured Abebe Gobina, an Ethiopian humanitarian who founded an orphanage to save children from starvation in the 1980s. Her story, like so many others, might have been lost without the power of audio. Then there's Haile Selassie, the Emperor of Ethiopia exiled in Bath, UK, in 1936. His story, along with the looting of the Aksum obelisk by Italian soldiers in 1937, became recurring subjects in African history audio documentaries. These programs didn't just recount events, they brought them to life. But it wasn't just the BBC. Henry Louis Gates Jr. produced Africa's Great Civilizations, a 6-hour documentary series released in 2017 that included audio components and covered 200,000 years of African history. This series became a vital educational tool, used in universities to counter Eurocentric narratives. Here's something you probably didn't know. Witness History began as a radio segment in the 1990s, evolving into a daily podcast by 2005. It became one of the oldest continuous audio documentary series on African history. But it wasn't just about the big names. Lesser-known stories, like Brenda Fassie's life and death in 2004, were also preserved. Fassie, dubbed the Madonna of the Townships, became a symbol of post-apartheid culture. Or take the Ibadan Zoo, Nigeria's biggest attraction in the 1970s, transformed by British expatriate Bob Golding. His story, preserved in niche African audio docs, reminds us of the colonial-era influences that shaped modern Africa. But these documentaries didn't just tell stories, they preserved oral traditions and first-person narratives from African elders, activists, and survivors of colonialism. They brought underreported events, like the 1974 coup against Ethiopia's monarchy, to international audiences. And they became critical tools for education, allowing non-literate audiences and rural communities to access historical content. However, it wasn't all positive. Early Western-produced audio documentaries often downplayed African agency, framing events through a colonial lens. The 1937 theft of the Aksum obelisk was suppressed in Italian media for decades. Only in 2005 was it returned to Ethiopia, a fact highlighted in recent audio docs. In countries like Ethiopia and Nigeria, state broadcasters censored audio content on military coups and human rights abuses. Women, despite figures like Abebe Gobina and Hawa Ibrahim, remain underrepresented. And while many audio docs focus on transatlantic slavery, they often omit the internal African slave trades and their long-term impacts. So why does this matter today? Modern African youth access history via podcasts and YouTube documentaries, like The Entire History of Africa in Under 10 Minutes, which has over 5 million views. Audio documentaries promote Swahili, made official by Julius Nyerere in Tanzania in the early 1960s, helping preserve indigenous languages. They fuel modern debates on sovereignty and leadership, informed by documentaries on Zambia's independence in 1964 and Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah ousted in 1966. And they inform current counterterrorism policies through records of Boko Haram's 2014 assault on Gwoza, Nigeria. Here's the bigger picture. Audio documentaries have democratized history, bridging gaps in formal education and preserving stories that might otherwise have been lost. They've brought African history to the world, countering colonial narratives and promoting a more accurate understanding of the continent's past. But there's still work to be done. We must support African-led audio documentary projects and ensure that these stories continue to be told. So, next time you listen to an audio documentary, Remember, it's not just a story. It's history preserved.